This past week I've been testing out some new kits that I'm going to be putting up on the store very soon, and the final part of my testing is usually trying out those kits on my PA speakers. I've got a pair of DB Technologies Opera 15-inch 400 watt active PA speakers. One is a 515DX and the other is a 405D. They're basically the same speaker, just one is a little bit newer than the other. I don't have a sub for this setup because I'm usually only using these to monitor while I'm on stage, and they kick out enough low end for that purpose. So while I was testing these out, I had an idea where I thought maybe it would be good to try and demonstrate some of the differences between how a kit sounds on a PA versus through your headphones. I've effectively reamped my electronic drum kit by miking up my PA to demonstrate. It's definitely not a perfect representation of what an electronic kit will sound like through a PA because mine are only one set of speakers out of many. Every room that you use a PA in will be different, and this one's not that big. And of course the microphones that I'm using will have their own frequency response as well. However, it has still picked up on some of the main issues that I run into when I'm using my electronic kits live. So I thought it might be useful for some people to do a little A/B comparison just so that you can hear what to look out for if you were going to do this yourself. The kits that I'm using to demonstrate are three variations of a Yamaha recording custom kit that I've sampled: a close mic direct mix, a roomy and ringy mix, and a modern processed mix. These kits aren't finished yet. In fact, this experience has actually shown me a few tweaks that I'm going to need to make, so the final versions that I do release will sound a bit different to this video. And just for the sake of demonstration, I'm only using the master output on both mixes. I'm not using the direct outputs and mixing them at the desk or in post, and the EQ, ambience, compression and all those other effects are all on the module. first main thing that jumped out at me here was the fact that you lose some clarity on the PA. And this is to be expected partly because of the speakers themselves and partly because of the setup that I'm using in order to do this demo. Sat here listening to these in the room myself, it does sound a bit different to how the recording picks it up. And as I mentioned before, the frequency response is stifled a little bit due to the lack of subs. You're also not getting all of that crisp top end that you get out of the module either. And finally, some of the room ambience and reflections are muddying the sound up too. PA speakers are never going to sound the same as your headphones because they're a different size of speaker, they're a different style of speaker, and they've got to move a lot more air. Generally speaking, your headphones are always going to sound a bit more immediate, tight and focused, and have a better scale of ambience. Also, one thing that I'm very aware of with my particular speakers is that the mid to high bass frequency response is quite hot compared to the other frequencies. The kick drums and toms usually sound pretty full, but they can also lose a bit of clarity, become a little bit muddy, and often become over resonant. And that aspect of it has been picked up by the microphones, especially on the middle rack tom. And usually you could fix this with a little bit of EQ or by using the muffling settings on your module if you have them. The more ambient kit also sounds a bit thicker and muddier on the PA compared to the direct module feed. It's not quite as apparent on the recording as it is when you're sat in the room because the microphones in your ears will always work differently, but I did think it was still kind of noticeable. Using a drier kit mix is something that I always recommend when running your kit through a PA in a live situation. Reverb can sound amazing in your headphones and give you a much better sense of depth and space, but it often isn't really necessary in a live mix because the room is already doing some of that for you. So it's always good to start off without the ambience and then only add it in if it becomes necessary. Now, I did do a couple of videos covering this topic back at the beginning of the channel. One about generally how to approach a live sound through a PA and one about how to troubleshoot those issues. They are older videos and they are pretty much just talking and no demonstrations, but the information lines up pretty well with this particular video, so I would recommend checking those out if you want more information. However, all that said, one thing that really took me by surprise was just how full and warm the reamped PA take sounded because of that additional mid to high bass frequency response. The snare sounds a lot thicker, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword, and the kick drum obviously isn't as subby because there was no sub, but it has a lot of body to it and so did the toms, and when I did an A-B comparison of these sounds, it kind of really highlighted the digital nature of the direct Roland module sound. For all of the details that were lost, there's something about that thicker reamped PA sound that I really enjoyed listening to. It still sounds like electronic drums, but there was definitely something in there that I felt was missing from the original mix. So I'll definitely be making some EQ changes before those kits go up on the store to try and land a balance of the best of both worlds. It's also been a bit of a fun experiment and it's given me some ideas of how I could maybe breathe some life into some flat electronic samples. Weirdly, it's kind of got me quite excited. So what did you think of this demonstration? Did you prefer one sound over the other? Did you think it was a bit silly and pointless? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to check out the eDrumworkshop.com for new kits and samples for your module. I'll let you know when these new kits are going up. And pop a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And of course, above all, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!